Good evening. This is Sachin Karnik. Today is the 10th of June 2025. I want to welcome you all to week number 23 of year number 2 of the Angel Wing Online Personal Transformation Program. We are continuing our series in the progression towards energy transmutation. We are at stage number 4, talking about energy revitalization, until this current series then eventually moves into the 5th stage of transmutation. Just as a quick reminder, the 5 stages are as follows. Energy activation and utilization is stage 1. Stage 2 is learning how to do energy equalization. This is personal energy equalization. Stage 3 is energy conservation. Stage 4 is energy revitalization. And stage 5 is energy transmutation. So we have been covering this since last year, and we will continue all the way further as this year progresses into energy transmutation, and then we'll be going through these again in some other ways connected with sustained balance, which is our major theme for this year, for year number 2. So we are on week number 23. And to continue from last week, one of the key points that we have been making is to map one's day, because all we have in life is the 24-hour cycle. That's our life. And while we're awake, we can decide the type of experiences we want to have. So to revitalize energy that is internally flowing within our system, we can identify cognitive peaks and set automated reminders for micro or meso breaks. It can be done through browser extensions, through phone alarms, or through Outlook, or through Alexa devices, or there's many ways of going about it. Identifying a cognitive peak simply means that sometimes we are very busy, maybe for a couple of hours in the morning doing our job, doing some activity, and then that uses a lot of energy. So when energy is being utilized this way, it needs to come back down into a balanced state, into a more stable state. That is why the micro break is needed. It could be a 2-minute break or a 5-minute break where some deep breathing is done. We'll talk about some of the breathing techniques, certainly. Maybe a mantra can be done. Going for a small walk is possible, right? But getting away from the activity for a while, and then if you have to go back, then we can go back to it. That's called a micro break, right? So the first exercise for this week is to set up a timer, or set up a reminder in the Alexa device or on the phone to take micro breaks. Because taking a micro break will allow us to bring the energy level back down from that cognitive peak. Now, please remember, I want to remind all of you about the TEMDE. So the way to remember that, as some new people may be online also, the TEMDE, you can hold up your hand this way, and it's easy to remember: thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, and energy. So all 5 are always functioning together. Because they're functioning together, there are times when there are peak experiences or peak states of energy utilization. And that's what's meant by a cognitive peak. So sometimes we have an emotional peak, right? So an emotional peak is where our emotions are at a certain height and they need to really be brought down to a balanced state. So this thing about mapping your day, this is a very powerful technique as a technique, meaning that it can be done every hour if you really want. Or even better is even every half hour. Take a 2-minute box breathing break. Chetna has shown how to do that. There's a lot of videos online we have created as well as they're available. This is called box breathing, right? So I'm going to show you how to do some of that in just a moment here. But the point is, we tend to get absorbed in an activity and then we don't take a break from that activity. It could be anything. It could be, it doesn't matter what the activity is. right? It could be something that we are intellectually involved with, something that we're even watching on TV, or it could be like some job-related activity. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we get into it and we enjoy it, which is fine. But there's another point here, is not to take enjoyment to a level of extinction. Now, that's another point. I just want to talk about that a bit here and make it really clear. I'll give you an example, a very simple example we probably all go through. We start watching something on, Hulu or Netflix or something, some series that we like. Well, that's great that we like it. It's okay. Sachin likes a particular series. Beautiful. But what is the emotional tendency is to go to the next episode, to not move away from it, because we're kind of locked in, if it's really interesting. But notice that's happening. Take a break from it, hit pause. Because if we overstimulate ourselves in that, we are draining a lot of energy just sitting watching those shows. This is just an example. And there's many examples like this. I'm just going to stay with this one example because it's relatable. Most people do this at some point. I've done it, you've done it, everybody's done this. But we need to be mindful not to do this because it drains energy. It's good to watch maybe an episode, even while watching that one episode, take a break at the halfway point, push pause, it's not going away anywhere, take a 5-minute walk, do something else, divert your mind in something else. It is a way of not destroying desire. Now, this is an interesting concept. And please be very mindful of this concept. The TEMDE, desires are within us. We always have desires. There's a secret. This is a kind of secret which extraordinarily high-level individuals have reached. They have learned the art of not destroying desire and the energy within desire. Now, what does that mean? Take that Netflix example. Just stay with that one example, but there's thousands like this. Sachin starts watching one episode. Then he watches 2. Then he watches 3. My energy is getting literally funneled, because of the focus and concentration. I don't need to be watching that 3 hours straight. But my desire is such that I just want more and I want more and I want more. Eventually a point comes where I overstimulate, oversaturate, and I'm exhausted internally. You'll feel that. That's called destroying the energy within desire. And that is to be avoided at all costs. This is true with food also. I may go to a restaurant and say, well, I want some Chinese vegetables, with white rice and with soup and this and that. Okay, fine. I can enjoy the dish to a point of satisfaction. But sometimes when we are wanting that experience, it just takes off. And then one thing, then another thing, and another item, then another item, and then, we overeat. Overeating is another example of the destruction of the energy of desire. And that is not helpful to the body at all. It causes an imbalance between the body and the mind and the brain. All three get imbalanced. And then, of course, our breathing and our internal energy and everything goes off track when there is the destruction of desire and the energy of desire. Destruction of desire means oversaturation. Oh, I don't want to. I had too much of it. Leave a little bit of that desire active. Take the Netflix example. If a season has if a show has 7 seasons, and I really am enjoying the very first episode, notice when I'm enjoying it, just in the middle of that enjoyment, after 20 minutes, hit the pause button. Don't damage the desire to want more by overstimulation. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. It sounds like a very strange thing to say. This is what we do. We damage the desire for it by overindulging in it. Take the strawberry shortcake example, which I've given before, right? You have a beautiful, nice, big piece of strawberry shortcake. It doesn't mean we have to eat the whole thing. Eat maybe a quarter of it and then still stay away from that saturation point. So there is a saturation point that our brain triggers that says, oh, that's enough. And we're trying to get to that because that's like a drug. That's what happens, and you just don't want anymore. The brain releases certain chemicals, and you feel like, I just feel like zoned out, or just some deep satisfaction inside. In the sexual response cycle, this is there. In the wanting liking cycle, this is there. It is there with all kinds of stimulative experiences, particularly in the addictions. The 11 classes of drugs and gambling addiction, the sex addiction, internet addiction, all of them, shopping addiction, they all go through the same process, right? So to stay away from saturation is a doorway into self-mastery. And this is a matter of really, it's a matter of heightened awareness to understand these points on this slide. I'm just only on the first point here. Let's see if we can even move away from that one. But the point is here that when we take micro breaks, this is very good for us. It's very, very good. I have to remind to do this myself because I love to be online to read books and watch different documentaries and whatever I'm doing. I have a tendency to also do too much of this. So you got to take the breaks. It's good to get out of the house when the weather is good. Go outside and take a walk. Don't stay with one activity too long. Any activity, any experience. This is the first point here. So it's a cognitive break. It is recognizing cognitive peak, emotional peak. Now, I want to talk about the emotions on this just for a moment here. This is even more difficult, particularly when we are in a heightened state of emotion. And if it's a negative emotion, what we consider to be negative emotion, that is going to funnel tremendous amount of energy. Take, for example, anger, right? Anger is on a continuum from very mild frustration to moderate frustration to the beginning of that anger impulse, and then it gets into like moderate anger and then severe anger, and then it gets into rage, and then there's even something beyond that called frozen anger. Beyond it meaning it's at the extreme level, not beyond anger, but at the extreme level is called frozen anger, that a person has frozen hatred towards a situation, towards a person, that whenever they see that person, they are just having this intense hateful reaction. That is called frozen anger, just in psychology. And so that's on one extreme. And on the other extreme is just very mild frustration, right? So now this is an example of the polarity or the pendulum of emotions. And this is where revitalization concept kicks into the picture with these micro breaks. When we detect the onset of a negative emotion or an emotion that is funneling energy, because our energy system changes right away. When there is frustration, agitation, fear, anger, greed, worry, tension, blame, shame, the whole list of negative emotions are there. Trepidation, all those things. Our energies begin to contract, as Dr. Berman has taught us beautifully. And then they start getting laser focused into that one emotion. And then it increases there. So the internal power running through the brain's mind, spinal cord, or from the more yogic point of view, the Kundalini, Kundalini, residing at the base of the spine, that Kundalini gets damaged. It gets harmed by this negative emotion. And then that causes imbalance in the physiology of the body, physiology of the brain. The structure of the brain is also affected. So many changes are there. So the point here is that to detect the onset of negative emotion and in that moment work on it and pull the energy out of it through alternate nostril breathing, through square breathing, through prayers, through different types of meditations, through a exercise routine or by stretch routines, whatever it is done, do all of that to move the body and then psychologically, mentally, really embrace the notion that this emotion is not me. This negative emotion is not me. It is an experience occurring within my mind. That experience will die down naturally if I don't add fuel to the fire. I hope this is very clear. And this is how a break from the emotion is consciously taken, is to detect that the emotion is not me. When an emotion comes up, the strong identified tendency is to say, that's me. I am that. And we just get, funneled inside there. Most people do. Even therapists, don't talk about the mastery of emotion. Usually they don't talk about it. I have not heard anybody really talk about that much. Maybe there are some. But the mastery of emotion, which we'll be talking much more in detail next year when we get to that stage, but just as a preamble to that, is that we are able to recognize that energy is being used here, and we don't want energy to be used there. We don't want it to be destroyed there. All right, so now what do? Recognize it, identify it, and pull away from that right away and divert into a different direction that is useful, beneficial, helpful, is going to expand us beautifully. Right now, this can happen even while you're watching while we're watching TV shows. It can easily happen. We watch something on TV, something on Netflix, something on Hulu, something here or there, whatever it is, news or whatever. And then you notice the way the emotions are moving while we're watching those things, for example. Right? So then take a pause. When you see a violent scene or something like that, just hit the mute button. Maybe close your eyes or divert your eyes. Let that scene pass. So we don't need to watch that necessarily. What is necessary here is to take a break then. Is to take a pause, get up, and do something else for 2 minutes. Take a micro break from that, because when a intense violent scene is there, or some very sad scene is there inside certain movies or certain shows, or we're watching the news and there's all kinds of trouble that is being shown there, it causes a tremendous amount of impact on the emotional flow. Take a break. We can hit pause. We can always hit pause. And that pause button is very important in life. Right? So by doing that, that's an emotional break. Now, what about memories? How do we take a break with our memories? Similar concept. We're sitting around, talking to people, doing whatever. Something pops up from the past. And then we start to think about it and live in that. It just takes over. And literally say, no, this is going on. Is it necessary to think about that now again? To bring that up again? No, you've thought about it. It's been done with. Leave it alone. Water under the bridge. So this is taking a break from our memory retrieval process. This is the third point here for today. This is the third practice to try this week. When we detect that memory is being activated, ask yourself, is this necessary to activate this thing? Because mind is such it is going to go in 1,000 directions, but it doesn't have to. You can say, no, I don't want it to go there. I've already been through that. What's the point? Why am I thinking about that again? Let me divert my mind into something else that is not going to cause a disturbance inside. See, it can happen that I could remember a memory and it can cause a disturbance. I could remember a memory, it can also be source of great enjoyment and joy, or it can cause regret, it's a very complex phenomena. Yes, we have our memories. They are always there. But the concept of being able to take a micro break from memory is a very interesting notion. That as the day progresses, notice where the mind is flipping. Oh, this happened 3 years ago. Somebody said this, somebody said that happened. Okay, that's all there. Is it necessary to keep chewing on that thing? I have to ask myself that thing. Why am I chewing on that thing still? This happens with family quite a bit. It really does. It happens probably in everyone's life with our family. We love them and we want to see well for them, but some issue has come in the past, something has been there, and we're not able to still come to terms with that. Or even if we have come to terms with it and we're okay with it, the power of our mental framework as such, it will go back and it will reopen the old problem again. It will reopen it to chew it up again. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Is that even necessary? So if that is happening, what is the practical exercise? Take a micro break. Oh, this is happening? Immediately dive into a prayer. Divert the mind. It's the direction. Remember the 5 and the 6. Right? These 5 points are our thought, emotion, memory, desire, energy. These 5, and the other 6 are quantity, quality, direction, dimension, depth, and structure. So those 6 are present in each of the 5, right? So 5 times So 5 times 6, that's 30, so that's 36, right? So there's 36 literally spokes there. I'll have to make a picture of this at some point. I've been talking about it for a while. But remember, it's about diverting the direction of my conscious thinking and remembering so that I can remain free. I am the source of my own freedom, and I am the cause of my own bondage. In the Indian scripture known as the Amrut Bindu Upanishad, it's a very interesting, small little scripture. It's called one of those minor Upanishads, it's called. But it's got fantastic truths with it. There's nothing minor about it. It's got the highest of realization, right? And this is one of the ideas in there, that we create our own bondages. And we can also liberate ourselves from those bondages. What a beautiful idea that is. And it's a truth that has come out of realization. Right? So as the day progresses, I have to ask myself again and again, where am I creating my bondage? Very interesting question. But how can I even answer that until I am clear inside what is bondage for me? What is the binding power for me? That has to be very clear. That this is binding. To recognize a memory retrieval process as a process that is binding me is the beginning of unbinding from that. But if I cannot recognize it in the moment, in the present moment, I will just run with it. And spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Sometimes, people are maybe sitting in front of the TV or something, but spending good 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour thinking and just mulling over something from the past. Some relationship issue, some event that happened, something that happened. And we are just burning away time and energy by doing that. And unless, there's one exception. There is one exception. And I do want to make that clear. If one wants to consciously do it, for the purpose of gaining wisdom, insight, or just because you want the experience. Okay? Then do it then. There you go. We are already experts. We all have postdoctoral degrees in how to make ourselves miserable. We already know how to do that. Every human being knows how to do that, unfortunately. We're masters at that, doctoral degrees in that, making ourselves very quickly miserable. But learning not to do that, there's no need to make ourselves miserable and unhappy and distressed and all that. Now, someone might counter and say, wait a minute. Are you saying that we shouldn't experience normal emotions? No, I'm not saying that at all. Normal emotions are going to come up. The question is to masterfully come out of that space where energy is being damaged and move it into revitalization if, and it's a big if, I really want that. If I don't want that, then I have the freedom and you have the freedom to remain in that contracted, limited, bound space. We have the freedom to remain bound and we have the freedom to unbind. Both are freedoms. It sounds crazy to say that, sounds difficult to understand. We have the freedom, the total, absolute, unconditional freedom to bind ourselves completely with ropes and chains of bondage. We are doing it ourselves. Our mind has that freedom to bind itself. And if we recognize that it's free, it's freely doing that, wow, that's an amazing thing. Now somebody will say, wait a minute, what about these automatic things that just go on, impulses that come on, impulse control disorders and all that kind of stuff? Yes, that is the programming, conditioning that's coming. But that is why we do all of these exercises and different meditations and different techniques, and this PTP program is to break through that conditioning. The conditioning is going to come up. There's no doubt about that. It's a heavy amount. My whole mind is conditioned. We cannot deny that fact, nor should we. Conditioning is there. But to recognize that this is coming from the past, it's an old pattern that's showing up this way for me. Is that really what I want? Maybe I want that. And sometimes we do, right? But maybe you don't. For example, there might be a movie that we liked before that has a lot of emotional fluctuation. I'll give you an example. There's a movie that came out some years back called The Wedding Planner. Now I'm going to try to give you some of these examples from just from TV shows and stuff like that. Right, so it's a movie about a lady who's a wedding planner and she gets involved with somebody and there's a love triangle situation. There's all kinds of romance stuff going on. It's a romance comedy, right? So if you watched it one time, you'll notice how the emotions flow within us as we're watching that. That's why they make the movies that way, so that the audience goes through a range of different emotions. The movies are made for the audience. The actors are acting for the audience. So you'll notice what happens. Now, if you've experienced certain emotions that in the past from watching that one movie, maybe 4 months later, a year later, or 2 years later, you'll say, no, I want to watch that again. Don't we do that? Why do we do that? Because we want to re-experience that range of emotions. Maybe it's a comedy, maybe there's some sadness, maybe there's the romantic bond, or whatever it is that we were experiencing, we want to experience that again. Now, Sachin can say, I want to experience that again, that range. Okay, then do it without damaging energy or balance. Do it as an experience only. But recognize that all experiences are only waves. They come and go, come and go. Right? So when we are consciously putting on a rerun and says, Sachin is going to watch this movie because I want to experience the emotions in that, well and good. That's sometimes there's sadness, sometimes there's elation, sometimes there's this, because our emotions also need healthy expression. And we also need to express a range of emotions. But it just depends on each person. I'm not suggesting that we should always be just in some kind of a fantasy world of just being happy all the time. That doesn't happen usually in life. Until one taps into undisturbed, non-polar joy, there's always going to be this fluctuation. And even if you have tapped into non-polar joy, which is your intrinsic natural joy, which is in Sanskrit we call that ananda, A-A-N-A-N-D-A, this undisturbed constant joy. Even if that is there, the experiences of the emotions still continue. But they are just experiences. They're like waves on the ocean. They come and they go, come and they go. There is no binding power that they have, even though we experience them. It's like saying, I enjoyed the movie. The movie hasn't bound me to its story. I am not bound in the story of the movie. That's a movie example, right? This can happen with friendships also. We have a wonderful friend circle, the 12 dimensions of life. You can have a wonderful friendship without being bound to anybody. Because once we get bound, internally bound, we have lost our freedom. And then love is not there. This is only Sachin's commentary on this point. Love is not that binding. Love is pure in its interaction, in its existence. So binding in terms of the ego is not there. The negative attachment structure is not there. So it is an unbounded love, and that is true friendship. It is a non-binding love that is true friendship. You see, so it's something extraordinary, and it's something which we don't understand very well. Usually, like, what could that possibly be? All we know in life is this binding feature, or quote, what we're calling affection, love, etc. Right? But there's a non-binding stage in that, where there is so much duty and affection and care, where the binding feature dissipates completely. And then the interaction is very, very beautiful. So the point here is that memories and emotions and thoughts and all of this internal world, it can reach a state of natural freedom. Yes, it can do so. It can reach a state of natural freedom. And once it reaches that state of natural freedom, we are able to then navigate beautifully throughout the 24-hour cycle. And that's the whole point. So that the overutilization of internal resources doesn't happen. The right amount of resource is utilized for the experience we're wanting to have. And that's the way that goes. Now, again, these are ideas that are being presented here. I would encourage each person to even listen to this recording again, take some more notes, see what your thoughts are about this, because it is not easy to grasp these ideas. These are more advanced ideas than we were talking about in the year number 1. All right, so it takes a bit of time to be able to navigate through this, through the currents of memories and emotions and feelings, and they are going to be there. Nonetheless, it is possible to detect the overutilization of energy in a memory, and then to pull it out from there, reconnect it again, leave the memory alone, re-experience it if you want to experience it again, but then realize that's only an experience, it's a temporary one, it will go. Right? So this is how the memory part, we can take a micro break from memories. This is the third part. Now, the question is about desires. What about desires? Can we take a micro break from desires? Is that possible? Sure, of course, because we have desires throughout the whole day. But when we notice that we're wanting so much in our lives, and then there's a sense of lacking, missing, this kind of deficiency shows up. If deficiency shows up, take a break from that deficiency, pull out from that, reconnect with a positive visualization, reconnect with a very nice view of what what the current situation can be. Because if we bring about negative viewpoints, negative ideas inside the mind, then what will happen is that we will wind up attracting that. That's called the law of attraction. So we don't want that to happen either. We don't want that to happen. So the ability to pull out of any kind of emotion, thought, memory, desire at the right time is what will bring revitalization in the present moment, in the present activity, in the present action. Otherwise, energy will quickly begin to be drain out. Okay, so I hope that point is clear. Now, having said all of that, let's go further into this slide here. And the stack techniques are there. These are some beautiful techniques that can be utilized. Combine box breathing with soft focus during the same 2-minute micro break for a deeper reset. So there's box breathing. You can just Google this or put it in YouTube, and you will know how to do it. There's a lot of videos on it. I don't want to take time on showing you how to do that here. I would just recommend you go to the YouTube and just put in box breathing. There's 4 steps for that. They come up later on in our presentation also. And then with a soft focus. That just means that you're focusing, on something that is very beautiful, maybe a flower, maybe a mountain, or maybe an image or something like that. You're focusing on something or other that is just softly, nothing too intense. So when you combine box breathing plus a soft focus in a 2-minute micro break, that can cause a deeper internal reset. That is called the stack technique or stack techniques. Right? Okay, now, third point here is to protect the space. No email or social media during breaks. Right? So these add novel noise rather than removing it. So if you're taking a 2-minute break, 3-minute break, doing these kinds of micro or meso breaks, don't look at your email, don't look at social media, just stay away from all of that. Just be with yourself, do some meditation, do some breathing, and then try to stay on track with whatever you have decided to do for the day. So that's called protecting the space that has been created internally through the micro break. All right. Now, the fourth point here is to measure and adjust. Track subjective mental clarity on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 if you want, and objective markers. So shorten and lengthen breaks based on patterns. So when we take a micro break for the TEMDE, as I just explained in the last 30 minutes or so, when we take those micro breaks, track what that felt like. Keep a small notebook with you or a small pad. We have those angel wing pads, that we give out during the annual retreat. And you can just write it down, put the date in there, and then track it. That I spent 2 minutes. How clear am I? Am I like absolutely 100% 10? Is it 10? Or is it like really low? Give yourself a number there. And then objective markers, error rate, task completion rate, all that simply means is to measure, shorten or lengthen breaks based on the pattern. So you may want to lengthen or shorten the break and then go back to the activity. How clearly are we doing the activity? Are we making errors? Are we completing the tasks we want to complete? Things like that. So this is called measure and adjust, right? So there's 4 points here that I wanted to cover today, and we're covering them here. Map your day, the stack technique, protect the space, and measure and adjust. All 4 can be tried this week as exercises. Try to do one of these each day. So throughout the day, try to do all 4 of them. And so take a micro break, then do a box breathing technique. When you're doing that technique or when you're sitting silently in alternate nostril breathing, don't look at emails or social media or any of that stuff. And then keep a small notebook. Now, you can do this and just put a number on there, 1 through 10, right? This is an activity that can be done. Now, in the next section now for today, there are multiple points here. And these are very, very revitalizing. See, revitalization, when we are actually in that modality of revitalization, just our overall experience is just better. Overall life experience is better. Overall hour-to-hour experience is so much better. Because why? Decluttering thought streams. And by the way, whenever you see the word thought, just substitute inside there TEMDE. Thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, and energy. All 5 have streams. And you can right on your hand, the TEMDE, put the thumb at the bottom. That's the core energy. And we've talked about it many, many times. So revitalization, when we actually reach revitalization mode, the modality of that, what does it do? It declutters our system. We don't want clutter. So eventually, that decluttering the system, when it reaches high levels of decluttering, what do we have? Crystalline clarity. How beautiful is that? Who doesn't want that in life? Sublime. It's a beautiful state to be in. Clarity, we think of that in terms of like thoughts. Yes, but it's not just thoughts. It is thoughts. It is thoughts. But it's also clear emotions. Now, have you ever heard that before? Let's talk about that for a moment. What does that mean even? We always say have a clear mind and thinking should be clear. Do we ever use the expression, let's have clear emotions? Have you ever heard that before? I don't think I've heard anybody ever use that expression that way. Let's let our emotions be clear. Do we get up in the morning or maybe throughout the day or at some point in the day and say, I want my emotions to be very, very clear? What does that mean even? I can say I want my mind to be clear, but that's kind of okay. I mean, we have some idea. Usually we're talking about our thoughts. Okay, so clarity of thoughts, yes. I think we understand to some extent what that is. But clarity of emotions is a whole different ballgame. Clarity of emotions means deciding ahead of time which emotion or what emotional space we want to be in. This is interesting. How is that possible? For example, right now it's 8:43 p.m. Let's say I decide, I take a couple of minutes and I say from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I want to be in a very joyous state of emotion. I just want to. So how do I make that happen? I could, watch a bunch of comedy shows. I said I want to just laugh. People say that, right? We just want to laugh. We just want to go to a party and we want to laugh. And we want to dance. Don't we do that already? We're choosing the kind of emotions we want by changing the environment, by being in an environment, being in a social context. But we can do that on our own also. And it sounds difficult, but you can choose it. To say, no, I want my emotions to be balanced. I want to experience good, steady emotions. I don't want to go into extreme anything. I can set that, or I can say, no, I want to really experience a lot of romantic emotion. Now, to do that, if you have a life partner, somebody with you, that would be fine. That's why people watch romance movies. They live because they want to experience that the music and the romance and all that stuff is shown there. Well, somebody might say, no, I want, action and adventure. I want to really experience a lot of energy of people, fighting with each other or shooting each other or some real action-packed. Okay, you can choose that. It's choosing the experience of emotion we want. And that can lead to emotional clarity. Emotional clarity is where we start with a clear vision of the emotions we want to experience. And if we can do that half an hour at a time, 1 hour at a time, wow, that will be a phenomenally different experience than just running blindly these emotions in a reactive modality. It's a very big difference. It's a very, very big difference. So the choice to say, I have the power to choose the space. Now, choose the space of the emotions I want. Now, if I say, for example, I'm in, I want to be in the religious mood. Well, I can be in a religious mood at home if I want. I can put on some sermons and open the Bible or open the Gita, open this, open that. Dude, I can choose that. You see, people don't realize, we don't realize even that we can choose the quality of the emotions, which emotional predominance we want. We can choose that and then align our actions and our interactions to bring that about. And we actually do this anyway when we go to a party, or somebody goes to a bar to drink, or somebody goes to a movie theater to watch a movie, or someone goes to a dance party, or someone goes to a wedding, or to attend somebody else's. We are choosing the emotions we want. Yes, absolutely we are. But we don't realize we're doing that. Now, once we realize we're doing that, we're aware of it, we can consciously awaken that choice and then decide to awaken that emotional space that you want to be in. Yes, and it's very interesting. Someone might say, well, I just want to be really... some people can actually watch horror movies and not get too disturbed by them. They enjoy a lot of horror movies. I wouldn't recommend watching any of them. That's just my own personal bias on that. But some people enjoy it. So why do people watch it? Because they want to be frightened or they want to be, whatever they want. Some people like watching mystery movies. Mystery. Once you start watching one big series on Netflix, a mystery series, it's so interesting. I cannot stop watching it, right? Because you want to be in that emotional space. Please remember, the emotional space is not detached from the cognitive function. The mental function and the cognition, they always bridge together. They always are together. They may not necessarily be in harmony with each other, but they are occurring together. All five are occurring together. TEMDE. Thought, emotion, memory, desire, energy. All five are together. All right, so this is a matter of choice. Now, what about choice with regards to memory? Yes, we can consciously choose memories in and out. No problem about that. And desires, we can activate desires. We can also move away from a space within desire. But that's a more advanced subject. That we'll be talking about that next year. It's a very... until there's a more sustained state of balance, we will not be able to do that with the desires as such. We just need to be aware of where they are. Don't overstimulate. I mentioned that earlier today. And then we can talk about that in much more detail. We'll be having a whole 13-week series on the energy of desire, what that exactly is, and how to masterfully navigate desires. Desires, wants, needs, cravings, things like that. What to do with them. It's a very intricate subject, and it requires a little bit of... It's even much more advanced than what we're talking about here right now. Right? But it's advanced in the sense when you're ready for it, then we can reach that point. All right. Now, having said that, I do want to... there's a lot of stuff here, but we'll cover the rest of this stuff next time. There's a whole lot of different exercises to be done here, but we'll cover it next time because we're running out of time fast here. Let me go to the quantum quality. Give me just a moment here to scroll that down. In today's quantum quality number 23 is about revitalization. So hold on one second here. Give me just a moment. Where did that go? This is quantum principle number 23. So just a moment here. Every week we have one principle. There's 52 quantum principles that have been identified. And just a moment here. Let's go back into this here. All right, so revitalization, of course, yes. So this is our entire current 13-week series is about this. I mean, this connects with this principle. Is revitalization of core energy. We've been talking about that the whole time. I mean, what is it? It's recognizing very clearly all of these points. I mean, we've talked about everything that's already in here. I just want to make one or two quick comments on this principle, on this quantum principle. How do you apply this quantum principle? Well, we apply this principle by internalizing the quality of revitalization. That in my day today, I am in a revital state. Energy is being utilized, it's being conserved, it's being opened up again in a very beautiful way. The whole series we've talked about this year so far, we're already in this today's the 23rd week. This is June 10th. We started with conservation this year. We did that for 13 weeks. We're coming to the end of this 13-week series after 2 weeks from today. 23, 24, 25, 26. After 3 weeks, 3 more sessions, 3 more presentations are on revitalization. So what is the quantum quality? That I am in the state of revitalization. That's it. Start with that in the day. When you wake up in the morning, bring that quality inside. That I'm going to be vital, going to re-energize myself beautifully and continue throughout the day without getting into those lower dips or overstimulating or all the things that we just talked about. And that is how we reactivate ourselves internally and reach the mode of revitality or revitalization mode. That's a quantum jump. If you understand the quality carefully, I won't go into all this, I won't repeat the stuff that I've talked about already. But if we can make a quantum jump into revitalization, we are well on our way towards self-mastery, right? So it's a quantum jump. Each of the qualities, the 52 of them, they have been identified very carefully by Dr. Chaitanya Kripalu, Dr. Elizabeth Berman, and me. The three of us, we worked on this some years back to identify these 52 quantum jumps. They're from one state to another, right? So this is the point here. And then remember the vitamin M concept, the vitamin M quality, that try to use money as a vitamin. That concept is there in the Vitamin M for Body, Mind, and Soul book, which we've talked about before. Also, we'll be having a series on that, especially later on, probably next year sometime. Right, so now having said that, let's go into the closing song, and we will then be able to open it up for Q&A for the couple of people that are available. Here we go.